What's going on YouTube? This is Michael Crash Prendergast, and on today's video I'm going to give you the 4 steps to making your photography look more professional. What? Roll the intro. Step numero uno, that means 1 in Spanish, is shooting in RAW. What is RAW, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. So a raw photo is a bunch of data that's layered on top of each other. So that way when you get into post-production, you can choose what you want to work on, such as the black, the whites, the highlights, the shadows, the color temperature, exposure and contrast. Do all of that without having to worry about the whole image being adjusted for. Whereas in JPEG, it's exactly what I said. You have one flat image, so when you target something, instead of targeting specifically those in the image, it just picks everything up going on in the photo. So when you do start working with RAW, that's the only way you should be shooting your photos, and you'll thank yourself in the long run, especially if you want to become more professional about it. You need to be shooting RAW. Step numero dos. Again, that means 2 in Espanol. Learning to shoot with your controls on manual when it comes to shutter speed. Shutter speed is when your mirror on your camera is opening and closing. Here's an example. Very good example. Here's a better example. This is the Canon 5D Mark III. So on this 5D Mark III over here, you can see that there is a mirror. So shutter speed controls how quick and slow that mirror goes in. Right now I just shot at 1/60th of a second. So when you're shooting action shots, you want to shoot at about 1/500th of a second or higher, because the longer that mirror is open, the more light you're gonna get in and the more motion blur you're gonna get. So when I'm shooting my action shots like this, or this, I have to shoot at a really high shutter in order to get these shots clean and without motion blur as best as I can. On the opposite side of that, the longer the shutter speed is open, the more light you'll get in. So it's good when you're shooting in low light situations, or when you're trying to shoot things such as like light exposures, or what I like to do personally is I like to shoot astrophotography, such as this, and this. Not like I'm trying to show off or anything, but I like to mess with everything that I possibly can when it comes to photography. I like to be well-rounded. Step 3. ISO is basically like predetermined light on your film. That's what it would be if it was film, but since we're using digital, just think of it as those little grainy dots. If you zoom in on it, like here, you'll see you get these little dots that kind of mess with your photo. So you can get rid of them mostly, but it's not gonna be as clean as if you shot at a lower ISO. So when you're shooting outside and it's direct sunlight, always shoot at ISO 100. And just a good rule of thumb, try not to go over ISO 400 or ISO 800. If you need to, then you can, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you're shooting, again, something like astrophotography. Step 4, aperture and f-stop. So what the aperture and the f-stop is your focal length. So what you have to think about when you're shooting with your f-stop is that the f-stop or the aperture is basically like an iris. So the wider the iris is, the more light you're gonna let in. And when you're shooting with a lens, you wanna try and have, I would say 2.8 or lower if you can. That's if you're not on a budget. The reason I say that is because you want that really clean, crisp, sharp look on your photos, and it's just like, ooh, it's like hearing the wind. Here's some examples of what it's like when you shoot with a really, really high f-stop and a really, really low f-stop. So the high f-stop, you'll see that the subject in motion will be super crisp and sharp. And over on this photo is exactly the same photo, but with the f-stop a lot lower. So the focal length is a lot longer. Therefore, everything becomes more in focus. And with that, you're gonna need a lot more light if you're gonna add more depth to your photo. And that's the 4 steps that I would say would help you to become more professional when it comes to your photography. I know at first it seems very overwhelming to have to shoot on manual, so you'll be shooting with your ISO, your shutter, and your aperture, but in the long run you'll be grateful, especially if you're trying to make something this kind of like a minor career, or even if you want it to be more of a professional hobby, such as myself. And I personally like to have the challenge, and I hope that you guys like the little bit of a challenge too. And if any of you guys have any input on my video, or if you have any input of your own, please comment down below. And if you can, please hit that like button. Also, it'd be really nice if you could subscribe. I think it looks nice, and it'd be cool if I could get, you know, one of those nice little silver buttons. Just, I'm not saying I need to be that nice or that cool, but it, you know, it looks nice. Anyways, thank you again for watching this video. I will try to come out with something later this week. If not, then be back here next week. All right, let it all go. Hold on, wait. You guys like Power Rangers? Check this out. It's morphin' time! Ha! Ha! Ha!